So I am joined today by Veronica Hardy, who fights this week back in action, and we are recording this just. I mean, you said you just got back from doing the MMA hour with Dan. A great interview as always with you two guys being on the show. I love that you guys get that now that when you get to go to New York, and so that you are able to go in studio. Like as much as I'm happy for the time and stuff, I don't know. There's something about the in-person interviews that are just so much more. I don't know. It feels more like a conversation. Does that make sense? Like you're able to go off on topics and
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely is because you get to like read the mood of the room sort of and like the reactions. There's little things that you're able to see in person about how a person sees or reacts that you might not get over Zoom. And then there's always the connection issues and stuff. Although it's been a bit more like popular since since the pandemic and stuff, but it is always nicer to have that in-person interaction.
yeah. And obviously there was a lot of things that you mentioned throughout there that I'll mention in this, I suppose, to kind of piggyback off some of the things that were mentioned during that interview. The first of which that I wanted to speak about first was the whole idea of potentially making New York a full-time residence at some point. Like what I you could tell, like I remember you joked about it, about how Dan is just like so enthusiastic once he's in New York, and you can just see it, that you guys love
Yeah.
it there. Like how real is that discussion, and is it something that could happen, soon, like near future, are you talking?
Yeah, I really think so. And it was crazy because it was like I jokingly mentioned it a few months ago and he was like, "Yeah, we're never leaving England. Like we're never
Right.
gonna live anywhere else." And then like it was the other day, he was just like, "Yeah, we're looking at moving to New York." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Okay, honey. And then after he goes, "You're cool with that, right?" Oh, of course, like I like it would be amazing for me. Well, first of all, it's amazing to live in New York, and also, the people at Henso Gracie are phenomenal. But I mean, he was like, "So Henso, if you need an MMA coach, So this is, and of course, like the PFL offices just opened up, like literally, I think like 2, 3 days ago, right at
Okay.
Union Square, which is like 2 minute walk from the other Henso Gracie gym that I'm training at. So it's kind of like the timing is very ideal and at a very good point for me in my career in order to just keep evolving.
The irony to this is that just over a year ago, when you were getting ready to fight in London, a big part of the chat that I had with you is about how you've traveled around and gone to so many different places in your career. And the fact that you were coming back in London, it felt like this is like a homecoming of sorts now that you've laid roots and you're here now. And it was like, this is all part of a new kind of chapter in your career. And then it's like, well, I guess we're packing our bags and going to New York. So I would have been, if you had said, nah, I'm not sure about it, I think I'd rather stay home, I would have been like, I would have been confused given your track record with going here, there, and everywhere to train in different places all over the world.
Yeah, man, I just feel like when you meet special people or when you find somebody or something that's special, you just have to take the jump and you just have to like try and make it work out as best you can. Like me going to the UK, it wasn't very like well thought of plan. It was a bit me of like jumping into it because I thought I found the right person. And then it's obviously different because it's regarding martial arts, but the grappling here and just the community of people around, it's something that's very special, and I do have that as well in the UK. And the great thing about New York is that it's not that far away.
Right.
Like there's a lot of flights. You can get a flight to London like every hour from New York and back, and it's something that it's very accessible for us to be back and forth. But it would be an amazing opportunity to learn because every time I come here, I feel like I improve so much, and there's just so much to learn. Like I never want to miss a session because I feel like I'm missing out on like gold. I need to be there. And just to feel that way about training, but obviously with fights, it's hard, right? You have like the pressure of the fight, you have all these other things, all these different emotions. And if you're able to enjoy your training where it doesn't feel like it's so heavy, it makes for I think for better longevity and a better relationship with you and the sport.
Yeah. One of the things that you said when you guys were talking about New York that I instantly flagged as like something that I'm gonna remember that when you said it was about how, you know, that New York is not cheap. There's a reason why New York has the prestige that New York has, right? But you said about how even if, you know, it leaves you without any, you know, additional money, if you're living in New York and you're training martial arts and you're still fighting and you're able to stay in New York and keep training through that, then what else have you got money to spend on? You know, like what else is there to try and get? And I thought that was so like, as you know, I was thinking about this a lot this past week because I interviewed Jack Shaw before his fight, and the big part of the interview that we did was about how he was going to be away from his new family for a substantial amount of time for the first time, and that's a lot of sacrifice to go through to have his fight end in a disappointing way, and I can't imagine how tough that is for him given all that he sacrificed. But the way that you put it with the New York thing is that, you know, whilst there is that side to it, and of course, like, you know, that obviously different circumstances with the fact that he had that defeat and how it ended, but that at the end of the day is the goal, in a lot of ways, to just be able to pursue martial arts for a living and to do it in one of the best places you could possibly do it in New York, which, you know, as far as places to live goes, not a bad one.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I certainly feel well for me, it was never about the UFC. It was never because, when I started martial arts, there was no female UFC and there wasn't any, so it wasn't really like a dream that I chased. Like my dream was to keep learning martial arts and keep evolving and keep, like learning new things and being around people that were like-minded to me and that could teach me and that could help me become a better person. And because I feel like with martial arts, you kind of learn a lot about yourself because you're put in such a vulnerable spot. You're put to fight in front of like 20,000 people that are there, plus whoever's watching online. It's just like a lot of people that watch MMA, and you're out there, you're about to get into a fist fight, like in like little shorts, and it's kind of cold, and like the lights are on you, and you know a lot about yourself at that moment because there is no room to hide. There is no room to hide even a single aspect of yourself, of your personality, of things that frighten you, of things that you haven't worked on or anything. It's there and it's out for everybody to see. And with that, it's such a journey within it itself that even, like even defeats, even though they're horrendous to go through, it gives you an opportunity to continue that pathway. And for me, that's the thing that brings me happiness. Win or lose, there's nothing else that I'd rather be doing than being here and training and learning and testing it out. Because that's the thing. Sometimes you have theories and sometimes they don't work, and losing is heartbreaking, but it can help you evolve. And I
Yeah.
think that's the point.
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned there about how, you know, you kind of you might suffer a defeat or something like that, and you'll have a way of maybe, oh, this is what I need to do different, and then maybe that doesn't work out, and so it's on to the next thing. I think that kind of feels like it's been the biggest thing as of late with these back-to-back wins and now going for the third one this weekend. You mentioned it briefly as well on Ariel's show about the confidence, right? And how that's been a big thing. Do you think the obviously winning is just going to naturally grow your confidence, but from everything that you've said over the last, you know, 2 years about what's changed now compared to before, before you were living in England and working with Dan and all this stuff, is about how now it feels like you're doing things the right way with a proper foundation, a proper training camp, proper team. So it feels like you're not having to roll the dice as much in terms of the, oh, well, this didn't work, so let me try this other option instead. It's like, well, we don't need to take a gamble on, okay, let's do the complete opposite. It's just, okay, we'll just do the little tweaks. Like, does that, I imagine that helps the confidence a lot, knowing that if there is a problem, we already know what steps to take to solve it, rather than being like, well, I guess I got to find someone who can help me solve this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like before, it just kind of felt like I was, in this like dark room, and I was just like throwing stuff and seeing what lands or like what sticks. And now it's okay, like for example, I did a very similar sort of say in the places that I went is exactly the same as last camp. But this camp it was even better because I was able to know like the little things that I could have adjusted. So it's always taking a step forward and not just a new project. It's like it's bettering the product instead of just like, well, I'm gonna try this completely other thing and see how that goes. And there's a lot of anxiety when that's a factor, right? When you have something completely new come up, you're anxious about it because it's the unknown. So to have this, it makes such a difference, and to also be able to return to places and see where you were before and where you are now and see improvements, that also helps with confidence, because like that's real confidence. I feel like I can stand in front of the mirror and be like, I'm the man, what is up? Like I can do that all day. And when you're in front of the person and there's like cameras and everything, that is going to crumble. That it's fake. So in order for me personally, I'm speaking, like I need to do those things. And I feel like I found a good rhythm with it.
Now, I'm gonna apologize to anyone that isn't a music fan for the remainder of this conversation, because this is something that got brought up right at the end of the interview with Ariel that I already had marked out as something that I was going to chat to you about. Because I'm a big Tool fan. I am also going to the Birmingham show in a couple of
Oh,
weeks,
are
end of the
you?
month. I saw them in Birmingham, the same tour that you went to, where you went to Manchester. So it again is like a nice little 2 years on, and I get to see them again. So super looking forward to it, of course. But the interesting thing for me, right, is I always see you posting on social media, and you'll be training or even talking about listening to Tool in training, which
Mhm.
is more like just I don't know if anyone else is going to care about this question, but I was like, I need to find this out, because if I'm at a gym and I'm listening to Tool, it's really good for not realizing how long I'm at the gym for. Like if I need to be there for an hour, Tool's a really good one to put on because I lose track of time, right? It's very hard to, you're not constantly looking at the clock like you might be if you're listening to 3 minute songs that are like either super aggressive or like just really fast or something like that. You get swept up in it easy.
Yeah.
But I would find it really difficult to do intensive workouts to that because it is so much about the build that the last 2 minutes of a Tool song, I feel like would be perfect for that. But when it's the first 3 minutes and it's just slowly, you get a new layer every minute that slowly stacks and builds to something greater, is that not difficult? Because I think I would struggle with that.
Well, I guess it depends on like what training that you're doing. I listen to it because like I'm not really established enough to have control of the speakers in the gym.
Right.
Like right now, Fabian Edwards has control of like
It's a big
Renegade,
gym. So that's fair enough.
and like I love them, but their music is not it. All right. He plays this song that's like it keeps going like Mary had a little lamb. And he goes, Mary had a little lamb. And I'm just like, what is this? And I'm like, what am I listening to? But I just find like for fighting, the Tool can also teach you for me, right? This is very personal. This is like
Mhm.
depends if you like the music. It depends on a whole bunch of things. Like you have to find what inspires you, and you have to find where you can find connections for yourself, right? Everyone's different, but I'm just speaking personally. The way that Tool builds up and it plays out, it's gotten to a point where they don't rush with the music, right? Like they know it's there and they keep it and they go higher and higher and it builds and it goes. And that's really where you see the beauty in fighting
Mm.
when people do that, when they don't rush for it to get a crazy knockout. They just like play and they move the angles and they move the rhythms and then they push and then they pull. And it's like there's a lot of things about life that I feel like you can learn from the music because it almost feels like because their albums take so long to come out and it's such sort of like a masterpiece, it also for me shows their how they've evolved as people growing up. And
Mm.
like for example, if you listen to like The Grudge, right? And it's like, you know, like clutch it like a cornerstone, like all the rights. Like, so it's like you have this anger, but you have to keep on to it because, well, first of all, anger is exhausting, but like you use it. But like the real truth is when you let go of it and when you're able to be free and have your like soul be free. And when you're fighting and you're able to like just be in that rhythm, it's a beautiful thing. I find it almost feels magical.
Yeah, I feel like as you were saying that, this kind of relates to what we were just saying about how before when you were traveling and doing all of these different camps in different places, and it was kind of, fix this problem by changing this thing instead of what actually affects the problem and stuff like that. Whereas now with a stable camp and everything's right, and it's you're able to make changes without rewriting the whole script, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like with Tool, the thing that puts a lot of people off is it's not super easy to grab onto and it's quite unpredictable at points. You don't necessarily know what's coming next. However, once you put the time investment into it, which is always a struggle for people to, when you're like, oh, listen to Tool, they're really good, but you need to put in, 10 hours to actually get it. It's like, well, I don't really
Yeah.
want to do that. But once you do have that investment in the time and you listen to those songs, I feel like there's almost a sense of like reassurance or a sense you get satisfaction out of knowing what's coming.
Mhm.
Once you do eventually know what is coming, once you've put in that time investment. And there is a kind of parallel there with what we were saying about your training camps, how whilst it isn't, I'm going here and training here, and I'm sure for some people that, and I'm sure that there were points where traveling the world was fantastic to get to travel the world and train martial arts in all these different places. But at the same time, that kind of reassurance and that stability of knowing what the next step is and how you're going to get there is, like I said, what this last, well, since you came back has been all about to me. And I imagine has been a huge part of this training camp, like you said, being able to go to the same places. Have you, when was the last time you had a training camp apart from, this run where you were training in the same gyms, back to back fights, like the same
I
schedule?
never, yeah, no, I've never had that. I've never had that. Like honestly, it feels like now I'm an MMA fighter, and before I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing to be honest, and I still think I don't know what I'm doing, but now I have a better idea. But like if I look at it, it almost feels like I like a different person.
Mm,
Like I was a different person to now, and you know, going back to tools like the great turn, right? But sometimes you have to go through like a bunch of like shit in order to come out of that, and then to have that realization. And sometimes if things aren't bad, you're not able to recognize when they are good, and you're not able to appreciate, and you're not able to really, yeah, have that appreciation for when things are right and know when to hold on to them. Like I'm able to see when people are really special and maybe not take it for granted because I've known people that aren't and I've known things that are bad. So now when things are good, I'm able to easily recognize it because I know what it's like to be on the other side.
yeah.
And it's just it all feels very different and more than of course, you know, like UFC and you win and all that, like that's great. But I feel more grateful for what it's done for me as a person, you know, like how it's helped me as a person to grow and to like become more confident and to know what I like and what I want and to help me discover that. And it's taken me to like hit rock bottom in order to realize that, but maybe if I didn't, I would have never, and I wouldn't feel as happy as I do now. But regardless of the results, like the MMA is a sport. As much as I love it, and as much as well, you know, when I go to training, I pay attention. I put my heart and soul into it. But at the end of the day, it is a sport, and who I am is not that. It's what I do. And now I've been able to understand that and not to just tell myself that to not be nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean, like with like even yeah, New York's expensive or whatever, but what else would I spend like my money on? Like what else? I did, I don't like fancy bags. I don't like it. I like nice restaurants here and there, but there's nothing else that I love or that brings me as much fulfillment. And it's not just about winning a fight. It's about the whole process. Because if you worry about just the fight, I mean, what do you get? Like three days a year, let's say you get a fight. So like your whole life, that's it. Your whole year is based on 3 days. What kind of life is that? That's
Yeah.
not the one I want.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Well, I mean, when you put it like that, I think that anyone who has ever watched the either the live streams or the picks podcasts that you do with Dan will know that the most excited I think I've ever seen either of you is when one of you gets a new pair of gloves. So I think that that says it all, right? Like if you people need an insight into whether you guys are going to be happy living in New York and just living this exact life forever, then I think that that says it all. So yeah, exciting times, and I appreciate the time massively to get this done on fight week, which is never easy to do. Look forward to this one against JJ Aldrich. You did already speak about this fight being a good step up and stuff like that on Ariel show, which yeah, completely agree with. Interesting matchup. And yeah, first fight of the night again. But again, as you said on Ariel show, get it done, get out of there, and on to the next one. As you said,
At
this is only
3:45, I'm done. It's
yeah,
honestly like the wildest thing because like obviously you know like the fight's coming and all of this and then you go into the arena, it's kind of early and you fight and you're in the octagon and it's like the big thing and then you know the interviews and stuff and you're back in the hotel by like 5. And you're like, okay, well, what I do with the rest
yeah.
of my day? Because I'm still awake. So and then you like watch it on TV and you're like, oh my God, I was there like an hour ago.
That is
Yeah,
weird.
it's crazy. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah,
Keep me first fight, whatever.
I mean, I will take being able to stay up until 11 p.m. to watch your fight, and then being able to get and then being able to do something else and not be awake at 3 a.m. in the morning. So
Yeah.
where I can do that, I will take those opportunities all day long. So it's cool with me. Um, like I said, thank you so much for the time on Fight Week. Obviously, all the best for the rest of the fight week and for the fight itself. And yeah, I will perhaps see you in Birmingham on the off chance. But I know that that is going to be an exciting one for you and Dan, and I'm looking forward to myself. So yeah, if I don't speak to you before then, all the best, and yeah,
Thank you very
hope
much.
it goes
Thank
well.
you.